I don't think there's my microphone. I call this meeting of the Alvin Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. All right. Next on the agenda is a public hearing.
So board, this evening we have Dr. Combs here. He's going to do our public hearing to discuss Alvin ISD's 25-26 budget and tax rate. Dr. Combs.
Thank you, Superintendent Nelson, President Harris, Board of Trustees. Appreciate the opportunity to come back to you with our budget and tax rate public hearing, part 2 for this year. This is a little bit of an anomaly that we're having this presentation a second time. But it's really related to action of the legislature. And so there are some good steps that are friendly to our taxpayers, but it changed a little bit of the metrics of how we get to a tax rate. And so we'll briefly go back through some of the information that we have previously discussed. And certainly, we went through a number of the goals as we built a budget. The district adopted a budget that we're certainly living within in 25-26. But as we started that conversation, we talked about where Alvin ISD stands financially. And so we are positioned in a good place. The financials of the district are revered in very high regard by those that not only audit us, but the state of Texas has rendered that we are superior rated based on our financial management practices. And I hate to give a spoiler alert to take away the excitement from an upcoming meeting, but the state has released preliminary ratings for this year's financial rating, and our preliminary rating is a superior rating with a score of a 98 out of 100. And so we'll come back to you formally with that, but that's a really positive thing we've recently seen from TEA. So thank you all for your work and contributions that have positioned Alvin ISD so well. And so there's a few other metrics there, but certainly the district has, pardon me for a second, team in the back, I think y'all may have grabbed a full presentation from when we've done this before. We can run through it all, but it may be a little bit longer than we were anticipating to be here. So I'll jump through quickly and kind of keep us on pace here. We talked about the budget development process where the board adopted a budget for this year that focuses on taking care of instruction. That has been the priority that we have had as a district, and that's been the priority of the board for many years, even despite the difficult challenges that public school districts have faced in recent years. The classroom and taking care of teachers has been the priority. That was no different this year as we went through building the budget, and the board authorized an increase to campus budgets, even with limited resource available. So kudos to the board for keeping that a priority. Also, the board focused in this budget and making sure, like they have in many recent years, back to 2008, that district staff members and teachers have received a cost of living adjustment. And that was really kept Alvin ISD in rare territory, that there were limited districts in recent years that were able to do that since 2008. So kudos to the board on that. Also, we talked extensively about the TERS culmination plan. As many of you know, in a number of years, the mechanics of Alvin ISD's financials will change in a material way. And so kudos to the board for talking, having conversations about what the plan is as we get to that point to avoid disruptions to our classrooms, students, and teachers. And so, we're going to go audibly and try to get to the presentation, because I think we have the full workshop presentation when we went through the budget up available today. If you'll pardon me for just 1 second. Okay, so with that said, the board approved the budget, $391 million operating budget for 25-26. And that happened back in June. And so as you recall the events that unfolded at that time, we're on a timeline where we publish a tax rate and budget notice back in May for the adoption of the budget in June. So if you can think back to where we were in May, the legislative session is moving full steam ahead. There's a lot of uncertainties. We don't have information from the state at that point on how they're addressing teacher compensation. The teacher retention allotment, which we all know went into effect, was not put into place at that time. And for our taxpayers, the significant increase in the homestead exemption had not yet been ratified into law. And so we moved forward in May with a notice based on the existing law. We went through the budget adoption process. The Board of Trustees adopt the budget in June. And then within that same 7-day period is when the legislature approved a lot of those things that had a material impact on how we operate as a school district. And so some of those were the increase in the homestead exemption from $100,000 to $140,000. But there were a few unique nuances to that. As you may recall, for that to fully go into effect, it will go to our voters statewide on the November ballot. And so here we were working under an old law that was not yet in place. We were working under the existing law because the new law had to be ratified by voters. And so we were a little bit in a holding pattern. The state of Texas, the Texas Education Agency, came out and they gave us guidance to go ahead and operate for the tax adoption process just as if the new law with the increased homestead exemption had gone into effect. And so that had a material, sizable impact on our values. As you may recall, we had a conversation through the budgeting process about the significant change from preliminary values we receive to the certified values. There has been, for the last few years, about $1 billion change. Well, this year, because that standard deviation from preliminary to certified, plus the increase to the homestead exemption, we saw about a $2.7 billion change from our preliminary values to our certified values. And so that had a significant impact on how the state of Texas handled our Tier 1 rate. As you recall, the state of Texas actually, TEA actually certifies the largest portion of the tax rate that comes back to the board to ratify. So there's limited discretion for the Board of Trustees on that portion because it aligns to the school funding laws and how that Tier 1 maintenance and operation rate is calculated. And so we went back through the process under the new guidance from the state. The truth in taxation documents were all done in accordance with Kristen Bolanek, the tax assessor collector. And those have been added to our website as an appendix to our budget in compliance with the stated expectation. And so we're here today following up with a second notice that's run in the paper, been published on the website, to go back through the process to make sure we're acting in accordance now with the new law that will be going into effect should voters approve it in November. But our guidance and the forms instruct us to act as if that is in effect for this budget adoption process. And so the board sees in your material and was reflected in the notice that was provided, the rate that is being proposed to the board is in alignment with the commitment that Alvin ISD made to our taxpayers prior to the last bond election. As you recall, when we shared information with the board, or with the community rather, we shared that there would be a 2-cent reduction of the tax rate last year. The Board of Trustees honored that, and there was a commitment for a 2-cent reduction this year as well. And like has been done time and time again by our Board of Trustees, that is fully the intention to propose a rate to the Board of Trustees this evening that honors that commitment. And so the rate being proposed this evening is a maintenance and operations rate of 0.7552 cents with an interest and sinking rate of 0.3948 cents, which is a total tax rate of $1.15, which is in fact consistent with that commitment to the community and a 2-cent reduction over the prior year's rate. I'm sorry, the visuals were less than you had hoped for this evening. But if you have any questions, certainly from the board or from those in attendance, would be happy to speak to those at this time.
Yes, this is a public hearing. Does anybody in the audience have any questions for Dr. Combs in regards to the tax rate? Does any of the board members have any questions?
Good job.
So, Dr. Combs, can you correct me if I'm wrong, because Senate Bill 4 is the one that addressed homestead exemptions. And so even though the state passed that, we still have to take it for voter approval, right, for the $140,000 homestead exemption in November? Is that correct?
That is correct, but the guidance from the state is for us to act as if it's in effect.
Correct.
And the development of the tax notices that will be going out from the appraisal district are reflective of that as well.
Of the $140,000
$140,000
exemption?
That's-
Okay.
that's correct.
I've been asked that by community, and I said, well, let's get to the public hearing, and then we'll get clarification.
Absolutely. If history is any indication, it's likely that the voters of Texas will be favorable to a $40,000 increase to the homestead exemption. And likewise, there's House Bill 9 that also has implications for business personal property, and that's up to $125,000 for an exemption there. That likewise will be going to voters, but the truth in taxation documents, the calculations, and the notices being prepared by the county are all reflective as if that change goes into effect. So if it doesn't, I think there'll have to be some type of corrective action from the state, but I would anticipate that those would go through with a sizable margin.
Dr. Combs, what's the anticipated, where's the state getting these dollars if the taxpayers are not paying it? Where are the dollars coming from?
Superintendent Nelson, that's a great question. One of the things that many folks don't really understand about the nuances of school finance law, as opposed to the tax rate for other political entities, for cities or counties or MUDs even, we operate in a much different way. For a school district, the vast majority of our revenue comes from a calculation that has to do with students. The main calculation is the number of students that we serve, what our enrollment is, and then the percent of attendance they're here. And then that is what's called an average daily attendance. So we receive a basic allotment. You've probably heard that term. And then that's multiplied by the weights. And so that calculation, number of kids, percent attendance, times the weights, the state determines a district entitlement. That's what state law says Alvin ISD should have to run and operate schools based on that calculation. Then the question is, where does that money come from? And so some of that money comes from property taxes, and the rest comes from the state. And so when you hear the state talking about changes to the homestead exemption, they're really talking about the homestead exemption as related to public schools. Because our financial system is their system. They're the ones that create those laws, those calculations, and they're the ones based on law that says, with this many kids that are taking these classes, you should have this much money. And so in this instance, where there's a $40,000 exemption to every home in the district now, it's about 30,000 homes. It's in excess of $1 billion that came off of our property taxes. So that's a sizable amount that we won't receive through property taxes. But the state is obligated for us to receive that district entitlement, the X number of dollars from that calculation. And so oftentimes people think, our valuations are going up significantly. We're seeing year over year values go up. And they'll ask, what's the school district doing with all those increased dollars? The system doesn't work that way. We're entitled to our district entitlement. The state determines where that ratio is set. And so just another side note to answer your question, lacking brevity on this answer, I apologize, but you've probably heard of Robin Hood before, where districts pay money back to the state. In that instance, it's where that district entitlement, the calculation, property taxes bring in more than the state says they're allowed to have. The dollars on top of that go back to the state. And so when values go up here or when the state sends them down, operationally, it should be relatively net neutral to our overall operating budget.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Go ahead, AJ.
would we potentially get into a situation, I mean, the homestead exemption is great for all of our homeowners, whether or not they have kids or students in the district, right? That's a benefit to every homeowner that lives, in our county or in our state. But will we get to a point where the homestead exemption is counterproductive as it relates to the reduced funding that we already see from the state, right? And they're already in control of the allotment that we get. We have to manage our tax rate to make it favorable for people to continue to come and send their kids here. I'm gonna just put a period right there
I can
before I
still,
say something that
I can still speak to where I think
Yeah.
you're going.
Yeah.
It's a good thing for our taxpayers, and it's fine for Alvin ISD, so long as the state is in a good financial position to meet the increasing obligation they've taken on. Back in 2008, I cited that Alvin ISD our board has provided a cost of living adjustment to staff every year since that 2009 era. In 2009, most districts were laying teachers off.
right.
Alvin ISD was in a position where that didn't happen, but we weren't in a place to give a cost of living adjustment at the time. That scenario was created because the state's obligation was not able to be met because of economic downturn.
I have two questions. One, you spoke about the cost of living adjustment that we've been able to do for quite some time. Had the teacher retention allotment, TRA, and the support staff retention allotment, the SSRA, not have been voted upon by the legislator, what would the district have done this year? Will we have seen the consistency of the cost of living adjustment at the same rate or modified?
That's a great question. And that would have been one of those times where there would have been difficult conversations with the Board of Trustees. Because we were in a place like you were seeing most districts running year-over-year deficit budgets. And we weren't insulated from that. And so you're at a place where in the short term, you can make some expenditures where your revenue doesn't meet it. But you do that over a long enough period, you jeopardize your financial health and stability. And so we were at the cusp of where there was some discomfort in where we were having to go from a budgeting standpoint because we hadn't seen any funding relief from the state of Texas since before COVID, all those inflationary environments. I shared how most of our funding is calculated, number of students, percent attendance times weights. Those numbers were set pre-COVID. So even as everyone's property values went up, operationally, we didn't receive increased revenue other than because our enrollment went up. But that cost money to hire more teachers and staff to serve students. So it was helpful, certainly. What we would have done absent that, I think that would have been some long, difficult, challenging conversations with the board had we been positioned in that way.
Here's a better way to fit, go.
One of our, I was going to tag on to that, one of the other things we would have to have considered is the past several years, we've been able to give an incentive at mid-year. We called it, I don't know, it started like at $500. The last couple of years, we've done a longevity stipend for employees that have stayed with us, and so it kind of tiers itself up. That's an additional piece of compensation that the board has to look at and consider each year. In the past, it's kind of been a surprise for staff. We've tried to make it a cute kind of thing, and now it's kind of like, are we going to get it? Are we going to get it? Well, it's really going to be where we are financially and if the board considers it. So the longevity stipend, if you've been here, I think it's 20 or more years, is $3,000 additional. Less than that, it tapers down to $2,000, $1,500, $750, $300, depending on time. So everyone gets something, right? But then on the back side, and I just actually asked Donnie Merrick to run these numbers for me, because we look at them each year, is the rising costs of insurance because we have that self-insured plan. So our self-insured plan, while, yes, we've had to go up the last couple years on employees' insurance by $10 or $20 here and there, it's still not enough to cover the cost of the self-insured plan. So the district picks up as part of the compensation package the backside of claims. So like 3 years ago, the claims were, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but a little over $3 million, 3.5, 3.6 million. If we would have taken the number of employees who participate in our self-insured plan and divided that 3.6 million, it would have been about $1,400 employees would have had to give back to cover the costs. So that's a benefit to employees in the compensation that they don't really see. It just happens because we've been financially conservative, prudent, whatever, in spending our dollars and putting it back into our employees. This year, it's going to land. We don't have all our claims in yet, but we're at about $2.4 million deficit right now. So if we divided it amongst the participants in the plan, we're looking at $800 or $70-something per month that we would have to charge back to employees, which we haven't.
Right.
So I think when you talk compensation, you have to look at the whole plan and not just the salary on the piece of paper that the employee gets. As Alvin ISD, as a board, you have been committed to do a lot for our employees, and so we thank you for all that you have committed to.
Yes, ma'am. Very well put.
When we look at these homestead exemptions or other tax implications, is the public school system, are we the ones that suffer the biggest impact on this, or cities? I mean, for example, I read where Lamarck, the city of Lamarck is in some trouble, right, with their finances. Does this affect our EMS, our fire and safety, our local cities, police departments, or is the public school system suffering the most when?
The public school system is most subject to political whims because it is their system. And so our funding is tied very tightly to each legislative session and what funding elements will be continued, will they allocate the dollars there? And like happened during the 88th legislative session, billions of dollars were allocated in the budget appropriations, but held back for political purposes. And so because of that, that had a very immediate, acute impact on public school across the state. Because other taxing entities, they have some limitations and restrictions as far as no new revenue rate, what percent their tax rates can go up. There's some restrictions on them. But they provide the funding internally within their system. They're not beholden to the outside system and money flowing from the state. And so it's kind of a two-part answer there.
And that lotto money doesn't really come to
No.
us, right?
So the lotto money.
You don't have to answer.
Okay.
And now public dollars going to vouchers as well.
Yes.
So now we're dividing
Takes
them up
away.
even more. So.
Got it.
Last question, and it's two-part. You spoke about the weights, WADA, the weighted ADA.
That's right.
Can you give examples of what the weights are? Because 30,000 students in Alvin might look different than 30,000 students in Allen, Texas.
That's right. So there's quite a few different programs that receive weights. We're actually going through some transition of that right now following the 89th legislative session. Actually, one that many people are very attuned to right now are the special education weights. Those can range from a weight of 1.1, so meaning a 10% increase, all the way up to 5 or 6 times the basic allotment because a student may need one-to-one full-time services or may have to be placed in outside care. And so the state actually enacted for the commissioner and TEA to review that whole process. There's some funding that will go into effect to align to that new system, but we're in a holding pattern for that one right now. Other examples are career and technical education. There's a variety of different weights based on the intensity of where students are in their coursework. And thankfully, kudos to the state, give credit where credit's due. They have placed some opportunities for us to have flexibility to expand career tech offerings in those classes and courses cost more, certainly. whether it be, auto tech and all the equipment that you need in there, if it's a course that has welding implications, or if it's an engineering type course that needs high-level equipment to run CAD and those kind of things. If they're industry aligned, it costs more than it would for a standard academic course with a teacher and those resources. And so depending on where they are in that, there's a range where it could be from about 1.2, 1.3 and range slightly up above that for career tech. There's other weights for compensatory education based on students that have been labeled at risk, provide some additional funding to support some remediation, to bring class sizes down, those type of things. There's gifted and talented weights for students. Interestingly enough on that, the state says you can identify as many students as you want to, but we're only going to fund you for 5%. And so they actually cap how much, even though our student population in that program exceeds 5%, the weighted funding is capped at that level.
Daniel, can you explain what you mean when you talk about weighted? Like,
Sir.
Points and...
Absolutely. So the basic allotment it was, you're going to put me on the spot. It was $6,160, and they increased it by $55, kind of. So you do the math for me. What is that?
Not enough.
Yeah, not enough.
There you go.
So you take that basic allotment amount, and so that is what one ADA, you referenced that, average.
6205.
60, nailed it, that's right.
Calculator.
I appreciate it. You're welcome.
Texas Tech.
Simple arithmetic on a microphone in front of an audience is
little stressful.
challenging. So you take the 6205 and you multiply that. That's what an average daily attendance. So not a student in enrollment. That's one student that would be here 100% of the time. And so, you have to figure out that number. But then for every hour that a student would be, say it's receiving special education services, or it's 1.1, for the time they're receiving those services, not necessarily for the whole day when they're receiving those services, they're basically getting a 10% increase on the basic allotment for the time they're receiving that service. And that counts the same way for students that are in CTE. They don't get that weighted funding for all the periods that they're here during the day, but they would receive that for the time that they're a contact hour, receiving that instruction from the teacher for career tech.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And I promise this is my last one. It's the second half of that one. But since we were on the budget and tax rate, on the budget side, going back to the SSRA, the state, the legislator gave $45 per student. If we are, I think the new numbers were over 30,000 students, that should be $1.35 million. The support staff, and I believe those are counselors, I think custodians, anyone not on a teacher contract. With that 1.35 million, where did we put that this year, and did we use any other fund balances to aid?
Absolutely. That's a wonderful question. I don't have the number right in front of me, so I'm going to go based on recollection, but I'm happy to follow up to make sure this is right. I believe for that category of employees, where you cited just over $1 million coming from the state, the Alvin ISD Board of Trustees spent about $2.7 million. And so it was a nice thing for the state to do, and certainly it was in response to the fact that they were hearing from other groups that the teacher retention allotment excluded some others, and so that was added. But to give a 3% cost of living adjustment, the Board of Trustees, out of your discretion that you had available, attributed well more than double to be able to serve those that qualified for that employee retention allotment.
All right. Hearing no other questions, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, birthday boy. It is Dr. Combs' birthday this
Happy
evening.
birthday. Yes. All right, everybody, we're on agenda item number 3, the invocation. Would you please rise and join Trustee Roberson to do the invocation? And I believe we have some students for the pledges this evening.
All right. Good evening. Let us take a moment of reflection We pause with grateful hearts as we begin this new school year, united in the shared commitment to the students, families, and the staff of Alvin ISD, and we ask for guidance and wisdom as we carry out our responsibilities as trustees, ensuring that every student is given the opportunity to learn, to grow, and to reach their fullest potential. We pray for the safety and well-being of our students, of our teachers, and every member of our staff. May our classrooms and campuses be places of peace and encouragement and inspiration. Tonight, we also pause to remember the lives lost and forever changed on September 11, 2001. And we honor the courage of the first responders and the strength of the families in this resilient nation that stood together in the face of tragedy. And we pray for continued healing and the safety for all those who protect us still today and across our unified country. And for those who believe, we ask God's presence and direction as we do the work before us. For those who do not share that same faith, we stand together in the spirit of unity, compassion, and common purpose to always do what's right and just for our children and our families in this community. Let us commit ourselves, Father God, to making decisions that reflect both the wisdom and integrity that ensures that every student in Alvin ISD feels successful and equipped to succeed. May our actions tonight and throughout this year honor the trust placed in us, and may our community remain strong and united in service to all. Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, next on the agenda is the superintendent's report.
Okay, board, lots of things happening this first month of school, and so we're very excited to share. Go ahead with the first one. We're very excited to share that our very own Trustee Johnson, AJ, has been chosen to be in Leadership TASB. This is a great honor, and so this year he will be going through this leadership class, and we look forward to hearing all about it. They visit different sites, and so we just wanted to say, I know it was on social media, Ms. Rives and them put it out, but we wanted to say congratulations for being part of that class of 2026.
Thank you. Back to school. Start at 7:30 tomorrow morning.
There you go, that's right, it's getting busy. Also, then we celebrated our Legacy Trail, or held it this past weekend at Heritage. The Alvin ISD Legacy Trail was a huge success as the community gathered at Heritage for the Party of the Century. Families, alumni, staff, and friends came together to celebrate 100 years of Alvin ISD's tradition, honoring the lasting impact of Alvin ISD on generations of students. And with this, several of you were out there, if not all of you were out there. You saw retired teachers, you saw retired staff, current staff. All of our schools set up a tent. Several of our departments did as well. Technology had a tent up with all the technology through the decades. And then we also had our departments helping out, and we'll be honoring them at a future board meeting. But we couldn't have done it without the direction of our communications department, who set the vision and planned it over this past year. So thank you, Ms. Rives, Ms. Moore, Tammy Mensel, Philip Jean, and Brittany Blanchard for your leadership in leading us on the Legacy Trail. It was a great celebration. Yes. And so I think Louis is going to play a little video that Phil put together from that day.
It was a celebration, 100 years in the making. Alvin ISD had a party of the century to honor a legacy of learning. On Saturday, September 6th, People of all ages came out to Freedom Field to partake in the festivities.
Each one of the tents set up by our school, they really did put in some thought into how to make this really a legacy of learning for our community when they came out. It was a wonderful event, planned very specifically over the last year by our communications department, but it took each and every department to really, truly make this happen. It was just amazing to see everyone come together and celebrate Alvin ISD in the last 100 years, and then also looking forward to the next 100 years.
From games to robotic dogs, face painting to catching up with old friends, having a bite to eat to bringing on the cheer. It was a memorable way to say happy birthday, Alvin ISD.
Thank you, Phil, for that. Also, we have Alvin ISD's College Fair coming up Monday, September the 22nd, 5:30 to 7:30 at JBH College and Career Academy. So we hope that everyone can join us. And this is also on our website and social media. So come on out and join the fun. I have a legislative update. I believe Trustee Swinney had asked for us to go through some of the recent legislation, and so bear with me because we have a lot, and it's not going to cover all of it, but I'm looking for my yellow piece of paper here. I wrote several of them down on. So starting with three policies that you've already adopted. Of course, House Bill 1481, our cell phone policy, has already been adopted. It is in full effect. Senate Bill 401, that was with UIL, not allowing homeschool students to participate in UIL. Senate Bill 13, the library materials, where our board will review library materials. And that there's some options coming, so that could be proposed for a change at a future board meeting, but right now it's in effect. Our librarians are working hard to put together purchasing list as well as posting the titles online for 30 days prior to. Senate Bill 10, we've had questions about the 10 commandments. So Senate Bill 10, we have to follow the law. We currently have not had any 10 commandments donated to the school district. We're not going to use school district funds to print our own posters, and there are very specific posters that you have to have. So right now, if someone was to donate, we by law would have to put them up. Someone said, well, there's an injunction or a judge. There are certain districts that cannot do that were put in this injunction. Alvin ISD is not currently on that list, so we still would have to follow the law should that happen. Senate Bill 11 for optional daily prayer in religious readings. This would be a resolution that our board would have to adopt within the next 6 months. So by February 29th, 2026, if the board's desire was to offer an optional daily prayer and religious reading, then we would do that. So if the board's desire is that, if you would communicate that with myself or with President Harris, then we could get with TASB and look into that if that's the desire of the board. So you still have time to think about that. We have 6 months. Of course, I know on our campuses, our staff doesn't prevent someone from saying a prayer. We have a moment of silence every day, and so that's still an option there. Senate Bill 12 is packed full of stuff. And so we are still waiting on guidance from TEA and TASB on some of the things here. Currently, we have uploaded parental forms in Skyward, and those are forms to grant health and counseling services. We have to have parental consent now for those services. Those forms have been uploaded in Skyward so parents can go in and fill out their forms. We've sent lots of stuff on social media, notifications through Skyward to parents. I think the one thing is if a child, if they're, it says in there that they can't receive first aid without the parental consent. I think what would happen is if the parent hadn't filled out the form, they're going to get a phone call if something's wrong with the child, that, our nurses are not going to turn their back on someone if it's a lot, or, have to call EMS or whatever it may be. But the forms are uploaded in there for Senate Bill 12. That's one of the things. At your place, I gave you a copy of the club form. So if students now are in clubs, they have to have parental consent for school-sponsored student clubs, and there's a copy at your place. I think it's on the website for our employees. to use if they're a club sponsor. So that form is there. That's part of that bill. And again, we're waiting for guidance from TEA and TASB for some of the other pieces of Senate Bill 12. House Bill 6 expands in-school suspension, what we refer to as ISS. That's addressed in Code of Conduct. Currently, it's 3 days. It used to be 10 days. Then it went to 3 days, the interpretation. Now it's back to up to 10 days, and then there has to be a review. So again, Admin Services works closely with training of our administrators on campus for that. Senate Bill 207 was mental health appointments that they would be considered excused absences. We already do this by law. We didn't have to be told, but we will continue. Our registrars and attendance clerks work very closely with parents when that's the case. And so if any parents have questions about, as long as they bring the note from the doctor, it's a mental health appointment or whatever, we'll make sure that it is an excused absence there. Senate Bill 314 deals with child nutrition and additives in our food. The Texas Department of Agriculture automatically takes that over for us. We don't have to worry about it. Our food will, they follow all the rules. If not, we wouldn't get our funding for child nutrition, which is a federal program. So the Texas Department of Agriculture is on that one. Daniel mentioned Senate Bill 4, which was the homestead exemption increase from $100,000 to $140,000. House Bill 27 addresses personal financial literacy graduation requirement. This is for our incoming freshmen this year, 25-26. Our curriculum team is working on this, on how to incorporate this, because it says they have to have a half a year. So there'll be TEKs that go along with that. And we have a little bit of time to work on it since they're incoming freshmen this year. So they're currently looking for guidance through that. And Region 4 will support that as well, and we'll get more guidance through that. House Bill 20 is applied science pathways. I talked to Ms. Johansson, and we already collaborate on a lot of this with the Alvin Community College, but we'll continue to seek new ways to do this through our science pathways, applied science pathways. Senate Bill 865 is the AED and CPR training. We're already in compliance with that. Senate Bill 870 talks about school marshals. We don't have our own school marshals. We have our own school police department. So school marshals aren't in effect in Alvin ISD. Any questions about any of the? I know that's a lot. We're anticipating and waiting. Some of us have a training with TASB on upcoming legislative update 126 that they said they should have it to us, anticipate it by mid-October. Then we'll review it as executive cabinet. Then we'll pass it to the board for review. But also with TASB coming up this weekend, you'll also have, because you're required by law to have that training. And so you'll have that should you go to that session. Typically, there's one offered by Region 4, but they may just let TASB. So I would encourage all of us to attend that session this weekend.
So thank you for that. We went really quickly, but I have two questions. The first one is regarding Senate Bill 12 and the form that we have regarding the clubs. Will that be available online? I think you mentioned that it may be available online, but I just wanted to get confirmation. Will we have it some sort of an easily accessible link somewhere, whether that's on social media, website?
So I want to say
Weekly.
that those sponsors will give them to the students when they're in, to pass them out. But I found this one online, but I'm trying to recall where I pulled it up at. I found it online. Renee? Oh, it's in Skyward as well?
It's in Skyward.
The club
Perfect.
one as well? Okay. the
So it
club
came
one.
out through parent email,
No.
whatever email is on file with the district?
I'm
Okay.
sorry, Mr. Gesh.
No, that's okay.
It's also distributed to the campus principals so that they give it to each sponsor, so that they have.
Okay, so campus principals will have it as well, so they give it to their club sponsors.
So we
as
currently
well.
have about 3 lines of defense here. Awesome.
And if we have any questions, reach out to Admin Services and they'll help you find it, or Ms. Rives, and we'll make sure if someone has a question for it.
Awesome. And then I want to explore House Bill 6 as it relates to ISS. I know we kind of talked about, we started at 10 days and then it went to 3 days and now we're kind of back at 10 days. What exactly will Alvin ISD adopt? What are we looking at? And my question specifically is, will it be district-wide or will it be at the campus principal's discretion?
It'll be district-wide, and then it also will be campus discretion, depending on the severity of the infraction, I guess. So we have discretionary placements and mandatory placements. So depending on, is it continual insubordination? Is it, I'm trying to think of different scenarios that would get you put in ISS. But to get 10 days is probably going to be a repeat offender. Like, it's not going to be automatically you're in 10 days. But it could be 10 days if you want it to avoid putting them in ADAPT, if it's not a mandatory placement. So there is discretion of the principal on campus, but it could be up to 10 days. So the adoption will come when you adopt the code of conduct this evening.
That was going to be my next question. Okay, perfect. You answered the question. Thank you.
I just had a comment, maybe just for the general public. A lot of these items seem like a foreign language, and we're sometimes easy targets as trustees and our admin team and the superintendent for simply just following directions that the state brings down to us. I encourage you, if there's something that, piques your interest or that you have questions about, by all means, contact us. But we simply have to follow the rules that are led to that are set out by the legislator. So you can Google any one of these, SB 12, who authored it, who supported it, what does it mean for my student, and you will find out all of the language in there. And I'm guilty of it. Before I took this position, I was only concerned about things that concern me, taxes and other items that affected my business, right? But now we're entrusted with students and staff and other things around this community, so we have to educate ourselves, and we continue to do that. I know a lot of us have gone to the Capitol and listened to folks talk about these things. We try to advocate as much as we can, but from a community standpoint, the more informed we can get, that we can help you all be informed. So I'm thankful, Superintendent Nelson, for giving that report. But simply just Google the bill when you see it. You will find out a lot of information. Yep. You'll find out about the local representatives who supported this and who authored these items and who to contact.
Okay, next, Louis. So now we have our video on legacy of learning, decade 1925 to 1935.
Chapter 1, 1925 to 1935. Before highways crisscrossed the region and subdivisions dotted the land, the story of Alvin Independent School District began in the heart of Brazoria County. On May 28, 1925, a bold step was taken, the official formation of a new public school district. At a time when Texas was still largely rural, this union symbolized more than a geographic decision. It was a commitment to children, to community, and to the power of education. As limitless possibilities soared after Charles Lindbergh piloted his plane, the Spirit of St. Louis, on the first solo flight across the Atlantic from New York to Paris in May of 1927, the district was beginning to take its first steps when black gold struck. While the rest of the country would soon struggle through the Great Depression and the ravages of the Dust Bowl in the early 30s, Alvin ISD found itself uniquely positioned with oil revenue, giving the young district something most didn't have: financial stability. Rice and cattle were two other industries that helped insulate Alvin from the economic calamity that much of the nation faced, leading to Alvin Grocery Store Stanton's to expand in 1932. With new resources came opportunity. The call for school bonds were answered at the polls. School facilities improved, teachers were hired, curriculum was expanded beyond the basics. Alvin's children were given a chance when many across the country were not. America would see plenty of change during this time period. Radio became more prevalent as songs like become hits. Movies grew from the silent era of Charlie Chaplin's Little Tramp to bigger monsters and moments, including the first Oscar-winning Best Picture, Wings. Baseball would become America's game as the Sultan of SWAT, Babe Ruth, would crush 60 homers in 1927.
Looks, my friends, like a real landslide this time.
Franklin Roosevelt would be voted in as president in 1932 and would remain in office until his death in April of 1945. From dusty roads came determined students. From oil fields rose dreams. The 1925-1935 chapter was more than just beginnings. It was about building a future against the odds.
So thank you, and at this time, I don't know, President Harrod, who's doing commendations this evening, but I would like to recognize all of our communications department is not here this evening, but I'd like to recognize Ms. Rives with accommodation and Ms. Moore, I know are here. And so if we can, whoever's doing the medals, if y'all come up front, and somebody's going to have to take a picture. Trent, can you take Rachel's camera, or Devon, or somebody take a picture?
That was nice.
Well, we have to surprise you because you do all the planning of the accommodations, so when else can we do it? And then we'll recognize Tammy and Phil at the next board meeting. So thank
All
you
right.
for all that you
Trent,
did.
no pressure.
for making it. Did it right.
Not in your element, Trent.
There you go.
Thank you.
So Ms. Rives will let you take over student and faculty accommodations now.
We will move right along with our student commendations first. And we're going to start with Shadow Creek HOSA students. Congratulations to the ladies of Shadow Creek High School's HOSA for earning 4th place out of 105 teams from all over the world in health education. They were the only finalists from the state of Texas at the HOSA International Competition in Nashville, Tennessee.
At the Gaylord.
We're extremely proud of this huge accomplishment. So when I call your name, please come forth and get your medal. Parents, feel free to take pictures or do whatever. This is your time to see your student shine. So we have Ayana Chowdhury. Mara Chukwumi Reje, I think, is what I was told. How do you say it? Wumajay.
That too.
Awesome, thank you.
Right.
I appreciate it.
Right.
Thank you very much. No, you're good. Okay. Alina Matthew. Recruity Malula. And Isabel Villanueva. And then we also have their teacher here today, Miss Swenda Barajas, I think. Is she here? What an accomplishment. That's pretty impressive nationwide. And you're in a great place with all the facilities, the medical facilities in the area. So we're very blessed to have y'all be called one of our students. So
Those
great
sharks.
job.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Okay, now we're going to recognize our national math stars that are nationally known. So we have 2 Alvin ISD students, Kyrie and Thomas. They have been selected for the prestigious National Math Stars program, a multi-state initiative that identifies exceptional young math talent and provides long-term support to nurture their abilities. Each year, there are thousands of second and third graders that are nominated nationwide, but only a select few are chosen for this rare opportunity. Following the evaluation process, Kyrie and Thomas stood out among nominees from across the country and will now receive 10 years of free support and advanced educational opportunities thanks to this program. They will be able to they'll have access to mentorships, advanced math enrichment, STEM and coding programs, competitions, and other unique experiences. So we have Thomas Snyder from Hood Case Elementary. And Kyrie Williams from Wilder Elementary. Great job.
Congratulations. Wow.
That is pretty amazing.
Come on up.
Proud parents, come on up.
Yeah, come on up.
1,000%.
Get a good shot.
Yes.
It's wonderful.
That's all right.
Pretty impressive.
It's awesome.
That's right.
Parents want to come up and get in a picture? Do the parents want to come up and get in the picture? Come on up. Here we go. Dad, come on up.
Big
That's
time.
right.
That is exactly right. Couldn't do it without the parents helping, so thank you.
Congratulations.
One more.
Right? For the Christmas card.
Gotta get it for the paper, who we do appreciate supports us all the time, so. Okay, and now, last but not least, we are, I wanted to do a special presentation. Alvin ISD proudly recognizes Denise Stanland.
She's right here in the front row. or second
Right
row.
there, I missed you, sorry, thanks, Denise. For her remarkable dedication to the Blue Santa program, where she has supported approximately 6,000 of our Alvin ISD students over the past 30 years. Through her leadership, the program has also raised more than $1 million to benefit Alvin ISD students. From the very beginning, the Alvin ISD Police Department has played an active role in making this initiative a success. And I know we have people from there, people from the fire department, and many other entities that help make this possible. And if you have not participated, I'm just going to put a little plug in for you. It is the most rewarding thing you will do. It is pretty amazing. So, Denise, will you please come up?
Our goal has always been the same, is to help students and families each and every day with clothes, shoes, a shopping spree, caps and gowns for seniors who couldn't afford them. And I'd like to thank my husband who's helped me for 30 years, my son Sean Ruby, and Lee Stanaland, Officer Alvarado, who I believe is a sergeant in the back, Alvin Community College, with Officer Dillman, Sergeant Fowl, with the Alvin ISD School District, has been with me 15 years. Councilman Scott Salter and everybody else, including Renee Rives and the school board trustees have helped, and I appreciate all of you.
Thank you.
Tell us what the dates are for, the date is for this year.
This is our 30th year, and December 18th will be our shopping night at Walmart in Lawn and Garden. It is reserved for us, and we will have boxes placed in different businesses, so when you see all the Blue Santa, you know the toys go there to the students after they get through shopping. They take those toys to their cities.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank
Awesome
you. Thank
job.
you. Thank you, Denise. Thank you.
Thank you.
Got the chaplain of the Alvin PD here too tonight, Ms.
Yeah,
Strudit.
we sure do.
Supporting.
Any of the kiddos are still in the
Good to
audience.
see
If you
you.
need to get home and get your homework done, tonight, now might be a good time.
Very few kids tonight.
I know. All right, moving into our agenda, number 6, our item is a presentation. It's the Bond 2024 update, bond projects and timelines.
So, Board, this evening, I asked Mr. Gesh to give us an update. Since it's our second meeting of the year, August, we did our STAR update, academic update with Ms. Shaw and Dr. Hobbs. And so this evening, we're going to get a business side bond update for our Deputy Superintendent, Mr. Gesh.
Good evening, Board. Thank you for letting us be here this evening. Superintendent Nelson. Going to touch briefly on our 2024 bond as well as some capital projects that occurred over the summer and some that are ongoing. Want to take a second to recognize, start with our maintenance and operations department leadership staff. I know Matt, stand up. Matt Bozer, Executive Director of Support Service, and Bob Atkins, who's came on board as our Director of Maintenance Operations. Well, with Z, who's the Assistant Director of Maintenance Operation. Anybody else here? He is also mainly works with our custodial department. Justin Boyd, who works with all of our HVAC and our trades and mechanical. Johnny Mancha, who works with our building mechanics and our general maintenance on our grounds and other special projects. Croy Cedillo is specifically over the grounds and lawn. Ethan, who does some who oversees our energy management and will be bringing some future reports on our energy efficiency. And then Jeff Wilson, it says compliance coordinator. Jeff deals with all of our fire marshals across the region, as well as all of our access control, our locksmiths, our IPM coordination with pest management, and compliance means he deals with about every state regulation you can get into as we go through that process. But just touching real quickly on some of our summer projects, 3 quick lists here, but here's some with some videos, some pictures. You can see the competition football field turf replacement at Memorial Stadium is up there in the upper left. We did that this summer, as well as the tennis courts were resurfaced at Alvin Junior High, Nolan Ryan Junior High, and Fairview Junior High. After 20 years, we replaced the band tower at Manville High School. You can see the spiral staircase on the outside. That's a little upgrade where there's not the vertical ladder anymore. That's so the evolution of everything as it goes through there. Bottom left is at Jeter. We did a flooring upgrade throughout that campus there. Finished that. That was a few phases in going. And then the science labs and art rooms at Nolan Ryan Junior High. This is a movement looking forward. We took away the tile. Buff floors went back to a resilient no-wax floor in these lab spaces to give us longer life with less maintenance and trying to get a balance out of there. This is a list of other summer projects that were completed. Just over $2.2 million worth of work done this summer that was completed. You can see that include waxing, but as well as field leveling work within HVAC. You see a lot of HVAC work. When you consider we have just in the neighborhood of about 160 chillers in the district. As you go through that, about half air-cooled, half water-cooled. As we go through that, each time we replace a chiller, it's about $500,000. So they have about a 20-year life expectancy, so it runs through it pretty quick. Then in progress, we still have the Manville High School auditorium roof that the board's approved. The specs had to go back through a second look there and trying to make sure we get the best value for the district. Had to go through some negotiation there, as well as different projects. The Shadow Creek High School track, the asphalt's down. The curing time ran in, so we still have to put the structural spray and get the stripings on that. And that's working with Coach Green and the athletic department to give us a window. Bayonne will be back to get that done as soon as they get the window to get it done. But they're working closely with the athletic department. So those are the M&O projects that got hit over the summer. This in progress is another $2.2 million. So overall, we got about $4.5 million worth of work from June till now that's in progress. It will be done completed through the fall semester as we roll into our next phase of capital projects. Any questions about that?
What's a band tower cost? Anybody know?
That one
Mickey?
was
Just curious.
$105,000.
Okay.
It was that staircase.
Well, that was a negotiated price of what it could have been.
Gotta check Amazon next time.
And
But it lasted 20 years?
that one lasted 20
yeah.
years.
That's
A
good.
little side note is the installer went back and looked. We were having some issues with the Iowa Colony band tower. They actually took it back and are refinishing, stripping it down, refinishing it. It should be, is it back up yet?
Under warranty?
It'll be back up next
Good.
week. Not really warranty, but they're not charging us for it because they saw that it should have been installed differently.
Okay.
So they're,
That's a win.
partnership with some of our vendors and manufacturers who stand behind their work, and so we appreciate that. Moving on to the bond project real quickly, our construction services department, Bill Van Wagner, our director of planning and construction's here. Is Billy here?
Bill,
No,
and
it's
then
Billy.
Billy
Oh, Billy.
Cunningham.
I don't think Bill's
Okay.
here.
Billy Cunningham is our coordinator of planning and construction. Rudy Santos and Shannon are our project managers who are our boots on the ground on site during a construction project. And then Jennifer is our department secretary over there. This department allows us to operate with their knowledge in and around our construction projects every day without having to go out and get third party that are involved in that. And they keep the projects running smoothly, but also keep our standards in play and our district standards. So, a bond update, if you remember back in November of '24, just about a year ago, we passed a bond for $380 million, just over that. Had two new elementary campuses, a replacement elementary campus, a junior high campus, and then looking at safety and security as well as improvements to Alvin High School and Manville High School. So, security piece, a big part of that was moving to what we call our Generation 2 security vestibule. We did several of those projects this summer. This is RISE, the RISE campus. It was a unique standalone campus. If you'll notice on the top left there, you have the counter space. That's now a transaction window. It's a very thick ballistic rated glass, just like on our newer campuses. Bank teller glass, if you think of going into the bank, which not many of us get to do anymore, but if you have personal contact in the bank, that same setup. And then you can see the door within the vestibule that you have to be buzzed into if you do have business inside the school. Below that's a picture of that same door from this side. That's ballistic glass on, in the top left again, that's ballistic glass on all of that. It's ballistic rated. Going into the school, that door remains locked. So if you enter the school for work to have business transact, you're in that vestibule. You're secured in there until you present your reason for business, and then there's a buzzer system to get you in. You see, the desk was reorientated to be close to the window. And on this one, we added some additional storage spaces, rearranged some office setup on RISE.
Mr. Gish?
Yes.
On the previous slide, the photo to the left, how tall of those walls, those double doors?
That is 8 foot, I believe.
Is it enclosed on top of that?
These are not, but it's over the 6 foot that's deemed non-scalable by that, and then we make sure not to have any furniture or anything within that.
Perfect, okay.
Space. That's a void space with out extra.
Okay.
Here is Alvin Junior High. We took, and again, you see the transaction window on the left. This was a vestibule already that had the second set of doors, but we moved it to have the entrance into the office. You can see the little bit more orientation on the bottom right, where the desk was flipped to the other side of the office, where the secretary now has to their right can do that, buzz them in and have that access coming in. This is Sanchez. Sanchez and Brothers have the same setup. The desk was moved across and now runs at an angle to create flow through there. You can see the teller window across the wall, and where they're buzzed in, they have to go through the office to enter the school and through the lobby area there. Here, to Trustee Roberson's point, there's a bench, but it's a solid wall. So we look at those things as we go through our security checks. What's the ability to move through those processes? So, Merrick Elementary, Merrick and Jeter were more challenging due to the design. So, it was a complete reorganization. We had to move the nurse's office in these as well as do some other campus reorganization, but we get the same second generation vestibule, same setup, buzz through, different configuration. This is hood case with Passmore, a reorientation of the front office. To the right is the lobby from the outside. You can see the transaction window and the windows into the office. Merrick along with Jeter, Hoodcase, and Passmore were all campuses where we also, on the left there, that's from the back side of the administrative office leading to the front office. You see the door. That's the secured entrance getting into the back where it isolates the front receiving area. That was a new feature on those because those were all had a pass through that you could get to the school through the office without being secured. So that's been added. So that's really our security vestibule upgrades. Getting to that generation 2. As you look at future projects moving forward, the firm we're using for security vestibules is J&B2. We're in design of phase 2 right now for next summer. You see that's Hassey, Savannah, Pomona, York, Wilder, which are all the same footprint, as well as Twain, Duke, and Meridiana, which are the same footprint. So we'll be looking at those as we get into the spring, bringing proposals for those projects. Phase 3 will be the summer of 27, which are all of our junior highs that are same footprint, as well as our one-offs with Nelson and Shadow Creek High School. So that's our security vestibule projects. Elementary 23, Cantera Creek at Iowa Colony. Next month, we'll have the bid. We had the pre-bid meeting today. It's on the street. We'll be bringing the numbers next month to the board to approve that, to go into construction, and looking to open August of 27th. I believe it was May. Here was the rendering from the presentation of what Elementary 23 will look like. This will be at Cantera Creek, which is on the west side of 288, south of Highway 6. It's at the intersect. It's on just off of Karsten is where this one will be located. Then future projects, Alvin High School, we're in design. Last month, or in August, I believe.
That's last month.
Last month, we awarded Stewart Builders as our construction manager at risk. PBK is our design firm. We're looking at a possibility of 3 phases. We hope to get most of it done within 2 phases. We look to award the guaranteed maximum price in March of next spring, and then move into phase 1, which will be the replacement for the Luke Kennedy building in August of 2028, followed closely behind with awarded GMP for phase 2 in 26, with also a move in of August of 28. It's a little bit aggressive on the timeline. There's an item at your place where you can see some of the timeline comparisons that's tentative there. As we get into the one we get a lot of questions about, Arcadis is working on the replacement campus on Mustang Road. We are going back onto the site where we had the tornado damage at Disney. Disney demolition has been completed. We're down to slab there so that we can move forward. Arcadis is our design firm. That presentation on what that design at school we'll be looking at in November. You can see the timeline there. Essentially here, the green arrow is where we are today. As we go through all the steps on the bullet points here, the first arrow, the brown colored arrow, is the summer of '26 where we hope to start our construction phase. And then we're looking at an opening of August 28th for the replacement campus over there. That'll replace Stevenson and Disney campuses on that. And then Manville High School, we haven't selected a design firm. We feel like it'll be much like Alvin High School with 2 phases. Starting, we hope to award a GMP on that one in December 27, with phase 1 completed in August of 29, and then April of 29, with December of 30 moving on phase 2. That's going to be a little bit more technical because there will be work going on inside the building on some phases of that rather than separate buildings like we have at Alvin High School. And then junior high 10, our tentative timeline is April of 29 to bring you a bid with a move-in of August of 31, and then elementary 24 with bringing a bid in August of 28 with move-in of August of 30. We have the backup generators that are in progress, and then many of the security upgrades are integrated in these projects as we go forward, especially at the high school campuses. So they're part of the projects in there, and they're just embedded in that. So, questions?
You mentioned the replacement campus, as you said, Stevenson and Disney. The board, will we consider the naming of that campus, or will it take the name of one of the 2 campuses it's replacing?
I want to defer to
To me.
to Superintendent Nelson. Well, I will say generally we.
So right now, we're just calling it the School on Mustang
Yeah.
because that will be the desire of, my recommendation, and we haven't really discussed this as a team yet, would be to put it out there to the community, a survey to ask them, because it was hit by a tornado, there was emotion and stuff, but yet you are combining 2 schools. So I think we do some sort of community survey first and see if the majority want to keep that name or if they'd like to rename, since you're putting 2 schools together like we did when Longfellow and Mark Twain joined. It became Hassey.
So it could be the Carroll Nelson Elementary.
No, because I'm employed and we can't name it.
Earl Humbird Elementary.
board member.
And then once the survey comes back, the board, we'd share with that. And we do have a committee that Ms. Rives
Previous
has.
schools have typically been like naming committees.
Committees
of
and
employees,
so-
committee
Colors and all
members.
that.
Yes,
Yep.
we have a committee. to do it. Good question, though.
Construction
That's- Because we
services,
have
we
been
still-
asked that, so thank you, Brian.
Construction services, we stick with numbers and locations and let communication worry about names and
Just
colors.
order the letters and you'll put them up?
Anybody else?
Those letters are expensive, too.
Yes, they are. Any other questions? All right, thank you so much for
Thank y'all
that
for the
update. That
opportunity.
was wonderful.
And board, this at your desk, at your place, is really like Mr. Gesh said, it's an internal document,
Ooh, I need some
and
glasses.
it's fluid, it changes. He works with Mr. Van Wagner, and these shift depending on, projects and things, so, but that just kind of gives you an overview.
Cost.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Gesh.
Thank you so much. So next on the agenda is open forum, and there is none. So moving on to the consent agenda, I do want to draw our attention to documents that are sitting at our places. I think upon scanning let's see, that would be, I think consent agenda B, request to consider approval of budget amendment. The fly sheet is at your seat. I don't think it was scanned, just to let you know that. So speaking of consent agenda, before I entertain a motion, are there any items needing to be pulled for individual consideration? All right, hearing none then, I will entertain a motion so let's do this first. Hold on just a minute. Let's see here. So there's none that need to be pulled, so then Superintendent Nelson, would you please read the fly sheet?
For the consent?
There we go, yeah.
Consent agenda items presented for board approval. A, request to consider approval of board minutes. B, request to consider approval of budget amendment number 2. C, request to consider approval for award of contractor consultant proposals. D, request to consider approval of general operating expenses. E, request to consider approval of RFP for charter bus services. F, request to consider approval of RFP for Shadow Creek High School hot food wells project. G, request to consider approval of the 2025-2026 Alvin ISD Student Code of Conduct. H, request to consider cooperative purchase 2 computer room air conditioner units. I, request to consider approval of identified hazardous routes within the district. J, request to consider approval of JJAEP MOU for 2025-2026 school year.
Thank you so much. I will entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items A through J as presented.
I move the board approve consent agenda items, action items A through J as presented.
Thank you, Trustee Scott. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Johnson. All right, all in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next on the agenda is a request to consider approval of the 2025 Alvin ISD tax rate.
So Board, this evening, you had a public hearing by Dr. Combs, and so this is a follow-up to that. It's a resolution included for board consideration to adopt the 2025-2026 Alvin ISD tax rate. The component breakdown of the proposed tax rate is as follows. Maintenance and operations at .7552, interest and sinking at .39.48, and total tax rate at $1.1500. The recommended total tax rate of $1.15 is for both maintenance and operations as well as interest and sinking, and is a 2-cent reduction over the prior year's total tax rate. The proposed motion language is mandated by the Texas Property Tax Code, Section 26.05B. However, this required language often causes confusion, as the statement does not account for the offsetting reduction in state funding as outlined in House Bill 3, House Bill 1525, and Senate Bill 2. The reflective tax rate calculation worksheet has been added as an addendum to the district's adopted 2025-2026 budget.
Thank you so much. I will entertain a motion for the board to approve the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of $1.1500, which is effectively a 1.88% increase in the tax rate and a reduction of 2 cents, 2.00 cents from the prior year's rate.
I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 1.1500, which is effectively a 1.88% increase in the tax rate and a reduction of 2 cents from the prior year's rate.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Trustee Garza. So we have a motion by Trustee Johnson and a second by Trustee Garza to approve the property tax rate to be increased by the adoption of the tax rate of a 1.1500, which is in dollars, which is effectively a 1.88% increase in the tax rate and a reduction of 2.00 cents from the prior year's rate. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, then all in favor? All opposed, motion carries 7-0. Next on the agenda is a request to consider additional teaching units for the 2025-2026 school year.
So Board, due to continued enrollment growth across the district and the increasing number of students required specialized instructional services, we anticipate the need for additional staffing to effectively support all students and campuses. For the 2025-2026 school year, we are requesting an approval for 5 additional teaching units. These positions will be allocated to various campuses and special programs to ensure that we maintain appropriate class sizes, meet program requirements, and provide high-quality instruction aligned with district standards and student needs.
Thank you so much. I will entertain a motion to approve the request of classroom teaching units to ensure that we maintain appropriate class sizes, meet program requirements, and continue to provide high-quality instruction aligned with district standards and student needs.
I move that the board approval be granted for requested personnel items as presented. The consideration of adding teaching units for the 2025-2026 school year.
Thank you, trustee Sweeney. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, trustee Roberson. All right, we have a first by trustee Sweeney, a second by trustee Roberson to approve the requested classroom teaching units to ensure that we maintain appropriate class sizes, meet program requirements, and continue to provide high-quality instruction aligned with the district standards and student needs. Is there any discussion or questions?
Yeah, I just have, go ahead. No, no. Okay. My question is, will we receive follow-up as to, where we place them and things of that nature?
So typically not. HR usually has that, I'll just call it a pot of teacher, and so Ms. Presley, Ms. Hoskins, and Dr. Bersenio will work closely with campuses when they're needed. So they're available. So each time typically during budget time, they will request these positions, but because we were trying to keep a balanced budget, this is something that after enrollment kind of settled, and now with more pre-K students coming because of the House Bill 2 allowing teachers, students pre-Ks to come, it's increased our numbers. And so Ms. Presley had to use some of the units that she would have been able to move around because we have to shift once classes are leveled. So an easy answer is no, not really. The board doesn't get an update as to where those go because they could be used in any
What I
area
hear you
of the-
saying essentially is, it depends on the need, right? Within the
Correct.
district, wherever the need, we just need to make sure they have them available.
And correct. And sometimes in the past, when we've requested more, they actually came back, we didn't use them. So we only use them if we need them.
Okay.
They're just available.
Okay.
And that was
Thank
going to
you.
be my question. These are our reserves, right?
they're
Basically, and
reserves.
is that going to be enough reserves or, okay.
If not, she'll come back. Yeah.
Very
So
good.
they're reserved, meaning they're not already dedicated for a certain campus or program. Does that make sense?
We've approved them.
They're
Vacancy as
they're
needed.
approved by the board
So if
to be used at the discretion when HR sees that a campus or somebody needs a unit because of number increase.
Sounds good. Thank you
Inflection
for the
enrollment.
clarification around that.
And my question, how many vacancies do we still have, or teacher vacancies in the district?
So we have 42 vacancies, and 20 of those are filled with long-term subs working on their certification.
Okay.
So the other ones are subs waiting for a certified teacher or teacher.
Okay.
Any other questions or discussion? Those are wonderful questions. Okay, then, we need to vote. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. All right, next on the agenda is a request to consider approval of personnel.
So board attached are requests for additional personnel to fill vacancies.
Thank you so much. I will entertain a motion for the board to approve the requested personnel items as presented.
I move that the board approval be granted for requested personnel items as presented.
Thank you, trustee Garza. Is there a second? Second. Mr. Trustee Humbird? All right. We have a first by trustee Garza and a second by trustee Humbird for the board to grant permission for the requested personnel items as presented. Is there any questions or comments? All right, hearing none, then all in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Next on the agenda is a request to consider approval of assistant principal, Pomona Elementary School.
So board, it seems like it's been a while back, but Ms. White, Connie White, was named principal at York Elementary School, leaving an opening at Pomona Elementary. So we got school started, and I believe Ms. Compton's here this evening, so she's ready to get an assistant principal. So we're recommending for consideration for board approval, Dr. Christy Miller. Christy's an accomplished educator and leader with more than 2 decades of experience in teaching and school leadership. She currently serves as a math teacher and a team lead at Challenger Elementary in Pearland ISD. Prior to this role, she spent 10 years at C.J. Harris Elementary as a music teacher and Pearland ISD Elementary and as Pearland ISD's elementary lead music teacher, while also gaining administrative experience as a principal intern in 2020 and 2021, and again in 2022 and 2023. Dr. Miller began her career as an assistant band director in Clear Creek ISD before moving into elementary music at Massey Ranch and C.J. Harris. Her diverse background in music, math, and leadership reflects her passion for fostering student growth and supporting school communities. She received her bachelor's degree in music education from the University of Houston, go Cougs, her master's in music from the University of Texas, go Longhorns, hook 'em, and her doctorate of musical arts from Florida State University. Trustee Johnson, what's that, a Gator? No.
I was gonna say, go
Seminoles.
Florida State. Go
Nah,
Florida State.
South State.
Yeah, that's not in Texas.
I don't know.
The committee's recommendation and my recommendation for consideration to the board is approval of Dr. Miller to assist in leading the staff and students as an assistant principal at Pomona Elementary.
Thank you so much. I will entertain a motion for the board to approve Dr. Christy Miller as Pomona Elementary Assistant Principal.
I move that we approve Miss Christy Miller as Assistant Principal of Pomona Elementary.
Thank you, Trustee Humbert. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Sweeney. All right, we have a first by Trustee Humbert and a second by Trustee Sweeney for the board to grant approval of Dr. Christy Miller as Assistant Principal at Pomona Elementary. Is there any questions or comments? Hearing none, then, all in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Welcome to Alvin ISD. Welcome, Miller. Stand up.
Do you have family that you'd like to introduce that you brought with you this evening? Welcome. Congratulations.
Thank you for bringing your family.
Welcome to Alvin ISD.
Yes. Thank you. What's wonderful. And does she need to stay after for
Yes,
photos?
please stay for a picture. Yep.
Perfect. All right, y'all, next on the agenda is adjournment. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Thank you, Trustee Humbert. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Trustee Sweeney. All right, sure there's no discussion. Hearing none then, all in favor? All right, motion carries 7-0. Thank you.